And it does. You know, the mayor appoints a police chief, the council sets ordinance, the police follow those ordinances and enforce them, and then the courts, there's courts for a reason. They cast a decision. What I have an issue with, beyond the fact that this gentleman's speech was frightening, it was racist, it was disturbing, to say the least, is the politicization of many elected members of this body to take this in an election year and use it to perceived advantage. There's been a number of instances in my own political career where I have been the subject of speech that was questionable. Anonymous messages on boards questioning my sexuality, anonymous commenting, talking about a former council person because of his height. But I have never seen the mayor go around with a petition asking folks to come out in support of that. I've never seen Councilman Bhalla stand up for the words that have been said against me, but in this particular case, it seems convenient. So I am not against standing up for what is right. It's what I've done in my community. It's what we all have done in our community. What I have an issue is the selective choice of when we say speech is free and when speech is hate-filled. And it's not up to this body. It's up to the Constitution. It is up to those that elect us to compose themselves and to behave as decent human beings. We set law here. We do not set morality. And that's what And I'll say this, is that I'm in favor of this amended resolution because of the fact that it will keep this guy out of the legal system and it will permit him to open up shop again as soon as possible. But if we want him to actually abide by our rules, we need to enforce those rules. And the noise ordinance, that's an important one to enforce. I can't tell you how many other noise ordinances in the First Ward we have that aren't being enforced. But at the end of the day, we find the ones that we want to find, and I hope that this isn't selective enforcement. And finally, I hope that when this gentleman's permit comes up next April, that there's no bias based on this. And what we're doing tonight is setting a precedent that is not a fair one, but I'm happy it's keeping this guy out of trouble. And I'm happy that we're speaking up for what's right. So, Council President, I appreciate the time you've given me, and I hand it back to you.
Council President?
Yes.
Yeah, I just think it's reprehensible and, frankly, patently offensive for you to say that or accuse me of politicizing this issue. You don't know my track record, Mr. DeFusco, even though you should. When the Orlando shootings happened, I was with you at the steps of City Hall at a press conference condemning that action by that individual in Orlando. We spoke together at that press conference. After the Trump, and that wasn't an election year. After the Trump victory in 2016, I introduced a resolution against hate incidents happening across the country against African Americans, Jews, immigrants, South Asians, the LGBT community. That wasn't in an election. I have a track record of my entire life taking a stand, and I'm going to take a stand in an election year too. It has nothing to do with politics. We have an obligation as public servants, no matter what day we are serving, the day before the election or the day after the election, to speak out on behalf of Hoboken as a welcoming, diverse, and inclusive city. And I will do that no matter what, for as long as I'm serving as a public servant. So I take complete offense for you to cast aspersions and to politicize this. This has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with the image of Hoboken to the rest of the country. We had our entire community blasphemized by one person who doesn't represent Hoboken. And we have an obligation to represent our community in the proper way. All of us. So just please put politics aside, because politics has nothing to do with this, okay? Thank you.
Council President, if I may respond. Politics has a lot to do with this, because when selective choices are made by elected officials to enforce hate speech or not to enforce hate speech, Councilman, that's when we open up the doors to hell. And sir, you have done a fine job at advocating for folks, the rights of folks, but you have not been there for the LGBTQ community the way that you claim you have. So I am thankful for your impassioned speech, but we can disagree on this one.
Okay, if you could just let me know what I haven't done for the LGBT community, I'd love to know.
Thank you. You know, I have to